Here you get a taste of the story that my brother put together, which I'm really excited to eventually release as a playable adventure. It's called Truffle Scuffle, and in it, players attend a dinner hosted by a group of mycologists who have made a breakthrough in cultivating truffles in microgravity. In their station at one of the moon's Lagrange points, they host some friends and colleagues to celebrate their achievement when an emergency requires an intervention and soon an investigation into who it is that is trying to stop them from disseminating this incredible discovery.
The system chimes and display on your screens indicates that you're fully docked and mated, and you can open the hatch anytime and enter the ship that you have arrived at. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And so you turn the handle. There's a satisfying click. The hatch swings open, and you enter the ship you have arrived at. The ship is called the Oankali, and it is the home and laboratory of the foursome that you have come to visit. They have named their group the L2 Mycomancers because they're stationed at the second Lagrange point in the moon. Oh, hang on. I just need to drag this, and now you can see the Oankali. Here's a map.
Yep.
You can see Deck 7. That's where they are located. And so I will... I'll drag you guys on to here and say that you're now on Deck 7 as well. You should just let me know if you can't drag.
Yes, we're small now.
All right, yeah. So you look around and you guys can see the tokens, right? Show players. Show players. Let me see. So this is the four of them. And, I don't want to overwhelm you with, too much info. But these four make up the L2 Mycomancers, a team of mushroom researchers living, working, and doing their thing in their ship, the Oankali, which is parked in an orbit above the moon. Their leader is Nightshade, all-around, capable, multi-purpose person. Detritus, Sporehor, they are they're into biohacking and genetic programming, so they're very involved in that aspect of the research. And they've got, various other passions going on, like, working as an influencer. And the last person is Helena. She is, she's into what's it called? She's into spiritualism and mind diving and brain machine interfaces and, also the hardware, something of the mechanics. So those are the introductions. Sorry for dumping all that info on you. And they give you a big hug and welcome you to the Oankali. Are you guys hungry?
Oh, hell yeah.
All right.
In real life,
I'm always hungry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, wait, in real
Indian
life?
place?
Indian place right next door because it's decent Indian food.
Sounds great. Okay. Sit down and have a dinner and just talk over food. But in the meantime, for anyone who's hungry, they've got some really cool mushroom jerky and mushroom steaks. The mushroom steaks is more of an entree item. But yeah, they've got a bunch of different snacks and stuff. So you guys can have some of those, and they'd like to give you a tour while killing time for the others to arrive. Is that okay?
Sure. I want to ask Greg Muscle, what does he think about these mushrooms? Should we eat them?
Do you have a mushroom protein shake?
Highlight of the game.
Yeah, Sporehor nods. Yeah, you're speaking my language. I gotta stay in, top form. I'm trying to remember what is into some kind of activity. Oh, Sporehor, they do powered armor roller derby and zero gravity high lie. So yeah, they're
What's
kind of
highlight?
Highlight. I think that's
Is that with the things that you use to catch the ball?
Yes, it's
like
a curved
shovel.
It's a curved thing that's sort of like a shovel or a trowel that a ball can sort of roll in a channel. You can whip balls at high
I think
speed.
I've played that before.
Yes, there's a zero gravity version actually nearby.
Whoa.
In the
That's a big shovel.
Yeah, so actually,
I think the kids ones are usually like that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so Sporehor, they're kind of a gym rat, and they work out for both powered armor, roller derby, and zero gravity high lie. So Spore Horror takes you to their personal stash of this mushroom protein powder, which, by the way, like took a lot of work to engineer. Mushrooms normally don't really have a lot of protein, but and it tastes kind of interesting, very earthy, not necessarily bad, but yeah. You can. If you want to mix it with anything, you want to put it in coffee. You want to make a shake.
Yeah, a shake. And then I'd say that I've definitely had worse tasting protein powders before. So.
All right. Well, yeah. They tell you if you're interested, they can share the like the sequence for the genome for this particular strain,
Ooh.
and you're welcome to they're happy to basically add you to the Discord for their some of their fitness groups.
Yeah, totally.
Then I go over to the Greg Muscle. I appreciate your athleticism, your commitment to athleticism. You make a great farmer.
Thanks.
And so if nothing else is going on, they want to give you a tour, and so this is the Oankali. This is their home, their lab, their world, and it's a pretty standard design. Essentially, a bunch of decks stacked on top of each other, so that when it's under thrust, and the thrust creates that artificial gravity. Essentially, it's 10 decks that are, stacked vertically, with a single sort of vertical tube with a ladder. Right now, you don't need the ladder except to pull yourself through, but you can just, float down the central corridor, which is also known as the ship's spine. They lead you to the very top. They're going to work top to bottom. And Hiro, you're very familiar with this kind of layout. You've
I've been on a lot of ships,
right. And so the very forwardmost deck is for piloting, and it just has some basically some command stuff. Below that is sensors and communications, and deck 3 is astrogation and command, which alternatively you could call really all operations. Deck 4 is some basic life support stuff with water and a chemical lab. And deck 5 is where they've got a mess hall and leisure lounge and hangout areas. Let's see. Deck 6 is the crew quarters. That's where they all live, and they've all customized their respective cabins. And deck 7, that's the cargo hold, as well as where the docking module connects. So there's a small sort of hub, a little modular unit that sort of acts as a T connector. So the dump truck 7 is docked there, and there's room for the others that are going to arrive soon. And so you're on deck 7. They then get excited. This is the cool part of the tour. Directly below deck 7 is deck 8, the labs, and deck 9, more labs. So those whole decks are just labs. And at the very bottom, deck 10, at the aft end of the ship, that is where propulsion is. That's where the small fusion reactor that powers the ship and the propulsion system is located. Even if they don't they don't really activate the drive system very often because they really use it as just like a station. But it technically was built as a ship and got there under its own power. Okay, and so critically in deck 8, in deck 9. In deck 9, they take you around. I'm gonna we don't really need to, but why not? I'm gonna drag all the tokens.
So basically, the ship is sideways, and then these decks are
Oh, I thought it's going up. Zero gravity.
So it's all zero gravity. They're all floating. But if you can see, the map sort of is showing slices that are all stacked.
So it's like a ship like this, and then these are.
But gravity is going this way, so you're
yeah.
Well, when it's on,
because it's going forward.
You see how on every single deck there's a circle that represents a central corridor.
Elevator.
Yeah, that is the spine of the ship. And so, technically, if it were...
So it's kind of like floating, stick?
No, I think it's going that, but the gravity, because the thrust is going this way,
yeah.
It feels like you're, routed this way.
Got it.
You would... Each one of these decks, you could, if there were thrust gravity, you could stand on it and walk around in this map. And all the maps are stacked, there's basically 10 maps on top of each other, and you can see that they are... have that central core. So, for example, hypothetically, if, a what's it called? If a round from a like a rail gun that penetrates everything went straight to the left of the corridor at the topmost thing, it would pass through every deck in sort of the same spot relative to that circle.
Okay.
Yeah, and so you guys see, is it updated? You're all on deck now. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this is Lab, and they are thrilled to be showing you, like, what they have been up to. Welcome to the lab. This is where the magic happens. You can see the room is packed, filled with equipment. Nightshade points to the large cylindrical clear tubes filled with hydroponic pellets and suffused with roots of some kind of plant. She explains those are the bioreactors containing the truffles that they grew. Sporehorse speaks up. You want to know how we did it? Who here has an MREP app on their hand terminal? Hand terminal being your small handheld computer. Does anyone, let's see, you know about farming. You don't really know about farming, and you're into biohacking, so you would probably know about this. When Sporehor mentions like an MREP app, I mean, do you have an app on your phone that's compatible with MREP? That's electromagnetic resonator protein. It's very popular in like basically any like horticulture and plant care. What it is it's a protein that can be inserted into any plant genome that will create, when I say electromagnetic resonator, a radio. It's a biological radio protein. It's a very weak signal, but you can basically wire it so, like, genetically program things to have an incredibly weak radio signal that's giving constant feedback on the plant's health. Okay, and it's existed for like 40. Yep, what you saying?
Oh no, that's cool.
Yeah. It was discovered in 2081, which is like over 40 years ago. It was a huge deal, and by inserting genes into plants and mapping to receptors, anything that you want to measure in a plant, you can non-invasively measure. But it's been 40 years, and no one has ever replicated it for fungus. Until maybe now. So, which of you hands over your hand terminal?
I don't like fungus,
Hell
so
yeah.
I keep my own.
Okay, yeah. So you show Sporehor, and they open up the app and point to tell you to set it to a specific frequency in the 2.4 gigahertz range. And when you do that, there's like a chime indicating that it detected a signal, and then a voice coming from the app announces that phosphorus saturation is at 99%, so it's healthy. And so, yeah, detritus smiles broadly. We did it for fungus. We got fungal electromagnetic resonator protein, and we grew truffles in zero gravity. And now growing truffles is as easy as growing pothos, which is super easy.
It's super easy indeed.
What?
It's super easy indeed. Like, if you kill pothos, something is wrong with it.
Exactly. And now, like, growing truffles anywhere, even in space, is as easy. I mean, it like, you're aware truffles like ridiculously hard to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you're gonna crash the truffle market.
Well, this is a post-scarcity
Yeah,
world.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But the
No capitalism.
actually, when you say that, there's like a look glance. They all glance at each other, and Nightshade clears her throat and says, funny you should mention. So, a group of some friends that we know from Dr. Hodge's lab when we were all in grad school is coming to hang out, and one of them is Milano Moss, and she is from a truffle growing family. We didn't think she was going to come. We were never super close with her, but she was part of the lab, and so we gave her an invite. Anyway, so when we're all having dinner, if you guys can try and be sensitive to the fact that she might not be thrilled about this breakthrough, and also try and, I guess, make her feel welcome. Just, if you can. All right?
Okay. I have a question about the world. So it's like,
Yes.
Are there still rich people and poor people?
Or
Or is there still like different classes of people?
Yeah, there are different classes. But it's way less related to economics. It's way more related to status, and status comes from a lot, really, like your place. Both one, skills you have; two, like where you are in social networks. Everything is all about like without profit making as a motivation, everyone still breaks off into something that's a lot like businesses, but now they're motivated by essentially being a team and
Popularity.
be both famous and influential. Obviously, if you become a really important person in a really important respected collective, then you really can easily get onto the boards for even bigger and different organizations. And so people jockey for power, and it's based on like what you've done and what you're connected to.
Yes. Okay.
And
So, like, is there... So, like, with this breakthrough, will that threaten her family's status then? Even though it doesn't threaten their
yeah,
like,
yeah,
safety, but it does threaten their, like, status as, like, oh, like, they were, like, the go-to, like, truffle farmers, you know?
yeah. I mean, in some ways, like think about it in your industry, except that everyone. Imagine if everyone's a trust fund kid and no one can really go hungry, and you're like, wow, we just made this like amazing breakthrough that makes what that person does really easy. Don't worry, they can learn something new. And even if they wanted to retire, they can. They don't even need money, but they're like,
Ego.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I mean, like, Sporehor points out that this has been something that has been a goal for literally decades, ever since like MREP. That's what they call electromagnetic resonator protein. Ever since MREP was discovered in 2081, again, that's more than 40 years ago. People have been racing to try and do it for fungus, and it's kind of a surprise that it took as long as it did. So, like, you know, any truffle grower that's feeling really like nervous, they've had decades to really kind of like pivot. So Sporehor is like, you know,
They kind of have it coming.
right. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like, our goal is to push the envelope and what's possible. And frankly, there's a lot of people that are living off world who frankly would really love to grow some truffles. Like, it's not our job to protect, you know, Milano Moss's sort of like legacy. They can be very proud of what they've done over decades. And they're still growing truffles, you know? No one's stopping them from growing truffles. They're just less special.
Yeah. The question is, should we be more sus, like, treat this Milano Moss like she's more sus, you know?
Detritus nods and is like, the others are more like touchy-feely, but I agree. That's why, you know, we're going to keep the lab locked, you know, when the others arrive. I mean, I'd give a tour to pretty much anyone but Milano Moss. It's not that she's done something in the past, but, like, you know, better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Because as the bus driver, I remember she was kind of sus back during the college days, you know?
Yeah. Nightshade nods. I try and see the best in people, but I know you. So just then, the system, the ship's computer chimes, indicating that you know, the ship with the other guests is, you know, in proximity and is beginning their docking maneuver. And Nightshade suggests that we all head back to